The Uncertain Shadows. Chapter 1. The Mysterious Shadows. I've always cherished the quiet solitude of my apartment in the heart of the city, a place where I could retreat from the chaos and find solace amidst stacks of books and scattered notes strewn about my desk. It was here that I spent countless nights pondering life's mysteries with coffee as my companion, lost in thought while the wind whistled through the crackling window pane. The building itself was old, a relic from another era. Brick walls bearing scars of age, creaky floorboards underfoot, and an elevator that stuttered like it had a mind of its own. It seemed harmless enough for a young adult like me, a college student who couldn't afford anything grander. But then there were the shadows. At first, I dismissed them as tricks of the dim lighting or tired eyes from late night study sessions. Shadows danced across walls in peculiar patterns, stretching longer than they should, twisting into shapes that defied logic. As the days passed, these apparitions grew more frequent and insistent. They seemed to move with a life of their own, drifting silently around me as I slept or worked. The flickering light bulb cast eerie silhouettes. It could have been mere paranoia, but deep within, an unsettling fear stirred. I started locking doors at night. Not that anyone would dare venture into my modest abode, but the ritual offered a fleeting sense of security. Each morning's dawn brought renewed hope for normalcy, until I'd gaze upon the walls once again and shiver in the chill of twilight. The shadows never spoke aloud. Their presence sufficed to curdle blood in my veins. I tried to distract myself with classes and part-time work, yet the unease lingered. One evening, as I settled into bed, a silhouette appeared at the window. An unmistakable figure with shoulders hunched over, face obscured by the night. The glass pane was sealed shut. There could be no intruder outside. A shiver crept up my spine. That's when the whispers started. Faint but distinct, they began as soft murmurs and grew louder until I had to plug my ears against them. An effort that brought no peace. These voices were never audible, more sensation felt than heard. They spoke in hushed tones, incomprehensible words weaving through each other like a nightmare from which I couldn't awaken. In the stillness of my room, those whispers wove themselves into a haunting melody that left me drenched with sweat, heart pounding in rhythm with them. I often questioned sanity. Perhaps it was exhaustion or loneliness playing tricks on my mind. The apartment's inhabitants remained silent neighbors. Few ever stepped out, and our voices rarely crossed paths. Yet the shadows persisted. They appeared to move of their own accord, as if drawn by some unseen force toward me. I'd catch glimpses out of the corner of my eye, a fleeting glimpse of dark fabric or a head tilted in contemplation. One evening I caught sight of something concrete, a tall figure, back leaning against the wall opposite mine, before it vanished into nothingness as quickly as it materialized. The moment's silence was deafening, heart hammering wildly in my chest. I clutched my pillow like an anchor. It had to be a trick of tired eyes and shadows playing tricks. Yet that night, I heard them more vividly, a rustling noise emanating from within the wall when all else was stillness. A creak echoed through the floorboards, followed by hushed voices that sent shivers down my spine. My mind's grip on reality began to slip as darkness fell, and I lay there, listening for any sign of movement outside. Every night brought something new, shadows coalescing into vague shapes, whispers growing clearer, like murmurs in a language only known by the damned. In the morning light, I'd wake with racing thoughts and chalk it up to exhaustion. But as weeks turned into months, so did my dread. My days blurred together, consumed by academic pressures and night terrors. I dared not speak of it, fearing ridicule or worse, being locked away for the madness that crept in with each passing moonless night. The apartment was no longer safe. I sensed a presence watching me from the veil between worlds. One fateful eve, as I huddled beneath the blanket, the whispers reached a fever pitch. In the darkness, they seemed to swirl around me. A chilling chant, a floorboard groaned behind my door, prompting me to hold breath. An icy draft seeped through the crack under the entrance. It was just an old building, surely? But then I glimpsed it. A hooded silhouette hunched near the corner of the room, motionless and watching. My heart raced as I strained to make out any defining features, but saw only the dark fabric of a cloak or coat. I froze. An icy breath brushed against my skin, an unmistakable touch that shattered the veil between reality and nightmare. Something was in the apartment with me. A low growl, like distant thunder on a summer evening, rumbled through my room as I remained still, heart pounding in my throat. My eyes had to be playing tricks. There was no form to confront in broad daylight. But at night, that silhouette reappeared, each time closer. Shadows coalesced into an ominous figure. In the dead of darkness, I must confront whatever evil dwelled among the bricks. The decision brewed in me like a storm, yet I dared not act on it. Chapter 2. The Whispering Silence. Days blurred as my sanity teetered at the edge of collapse. Whispers escalated to a crescendo every night. Voices that spoke an unknown language. Sleep eluded me. Hours passed in uneasy vigilance as I clung to what remained of my reason. My apartment felt tainted by something sinister, watching with rapt attention through unseen eyes. One fateful evening, the hooded figure materialized before me, face obscured beneath its hood. The first glimpse of an unmistakable presence. In a daze, I fumbled for my phone and managed to dial a number long forgotten. My childhood best friend, Emily. Her voice was a lifeline when I finally found the courage to confess. She'd visited once. Now it was time for her help. Her car wheels screeched outside at dawn, shaking me from my trance. We hugged tightly as she entered. An island of sanity in this maelstrom. I told her everything. Shadows that moved, the hooded figure watching, and those unsettling voices. Emily listened with a knowing gaze. "We'll investigate tonight," she promised. With flashlights in hand, we ventured into the heart of the anomaly under a full moon's watchful eye. The apartment was still. No signs of intruders or hidden cameras. My room, always dimly lit by night, now seemed an eerie gallery of dark silhouettes playing shadow puppetry across walls. In the corner stood the figure from my nightmares, shielding their face. Emily and I approached cautiously. As our beams illuminated it, they vanished into thin air. A sigh escaped me. Perhaps we'd imagined it all. But then, a gust of icy air swept through the space. My friend's voice cut short, and she backed away, whispering Alex. Her name torn from lips that didn't belong to her. A shadowy form coalesced before us. In the glare of our lights, I saw pale skin exposed by an unbuttoned cloak, eyes reflecting moonlight like hollow pits. The figure raised its face, and my breath caught. They were no longer human. No pupils or irises. A silent scream built inside me as it stepped forward. "Please," a low voice rasped. "Do not run. In the face of an unknown evil, I'd rather face it." The apparition beckoned us closer. They stood in the center of our room, eyes unblinking with a lifeless gleam. Then a hood slipped off to reveal death, that white hair framing sunken features. Its skin seemed stitched together from patches of night and shadow itself. "Let me pass," they said in a voice barely above a whisper. With trembling hands, I fumbled for the door, an escape route or entrance. It opened with ease, revealing a narrow corridor that wasn't there before. A doorway to unknown realms. Emily's flashlight flickered, casting eerie shadows upon both of us. A single step into darkness, and it closed behind me. In this void, a figure whispered in my ear, "Your destiny is here." Behind us, I heard the door shut with finality, sealing us within an abyss. A pale hand clutched my arm. I followed blindly. The passageway twisted, turning endlessly as we descended into dampness and musty air thickened by unseen secrets. Echoes of our footsteps were swallowed, each step leading to a door at the end, ancient wood adorned with runes. They spoke in tongues I couldn't understand, bidding me enter. In an act of defiance or curiosity, my hand found purchase on the iron doorknob. The hinges protested as we crossed into the unknown. The chamber was lit by an ethereal glow and bore markings similar to those on the door. A figure stood before us, tall and gaunt with skin stitched from shadows. Eyes that shone like embers regarded us. Then it spoke. "Your destiny." It broke off mid-sentence as a second being emerged, this one robed in tattered black. They faced each other, voices growing urgent. An argument of ancient tongues we didn't comprehend. A gust of wind, and both vanished into the darkness, leaving us alone amidst runes on pitted wood. We exchanged a look. Neither of us dared venture further. In the void, I heard the hooded one whisper, "You have awakened it." Emily's hand found my arm as if to flee, but that door swung shut once more behind us, trapping us. Together we stumbled upward into moonlight, gasping at freedom. The passageway seemed a dream. Shadows retreated, and my room was still and dark when the door opened with a sigh. Back inside, only shadows remained where they had stood mere moments before. No sign of those unworldly beings or our journey through them. "I'll tell you what happened," I said shakily as Emily hugged me close by dawn's light. "You're my friend, Alex. We face this together now." In the morning, a note was left on the doorframe. "Wait for nightfall and heed the whispers, mortal." Chapter 3. The Final Revelation. Under moonlight, an unseen force beckoned us forward once more into that passageway. We ventured deeper, down the wrong path. A maelstrom of shadows danced around our forms as we descended. In a vast cavern filled with relics from forgotten centuries, whispers turned to words, ancient and unpronounceable. A figure stood before them, hooded yet imposing. It beckoned us closer. They spoke in tongues no living being could speak. The wind itself was a tongue of old lore. Emily's grip tightened. I whispered back, "What do we say?" The apparition leaned forward, eyes alight with an ethereal glow. "Speak it, and you will be taken," they rasped. Emily opened her mouth as if to let out something from beyond the grave. A guttural chant that resonated within my chest, shaking me to the core. I echoed it, unvoiced words spilling from my lips like an offering. The cavern pulsed with light, and we were ushered into a throne room of ancient relics, artifacts carved before dawn. In the silence after our prayer, a colossal statue loomed. Its headless form leaned forward, a hollowed-out visage that spoke in a language I couldn't comprehend. "You have awakened it," it growled, echoing the hooded figure's parting words. A door creaked open within its mouth as if by unseen hands, revealing a corridor and an ancient tome adorned with symbols of night and time. The book slammed shut behind us like a tombstone. Emily trembled in silence. I did not. It was my home now. With each step forward, the air grew colder, as if moonlight could penetrate this place no more than an ember on stone. Our footprints disappeared from sight, swallowed by darkness that held tales of countless beings. Shadow people, ancient whispers turned to wind. I reached out and a floorboard crumbled beneath me. As I fell through a hole, the sound of our own voices echoed, chanting in tongues before we descended into an abyss. In the cavern's depths, something watched us from a hollow throne. With eyes unblinking, it spoke in our tongue now, then turned to shadow, and its place was taken by another formless mass, the headless thing with an offering of secrets. The cavern shook as they argued. Each face I recognized, one who had come before me, many who came after me. They whispered ancient lore within my mind until I fell, their tongues a symphony that carved itself into my soul and became a language. Words no mortal tongue could speak, only comprehend. My form blurred in the wind as they spoke of my lineage, my place in the world's balance, in this realm and our own. In time, it was my voice that carried their knowledge. We were ushered out into the moonlit room by shadowy figures now robed. One turned to us, a face I knew. You are here because you have awakened, they said, revealing a destiny. It spoke without moving its lips and vanished with their fellow shadows. Our friend was no longer. We fled up the path we took, but it followed us in the end. And when morning came, my eyes held knowledge from beyond time. The wind that bore these secrets had taken her form. It was all I knew. We emerged into moonlight as they vanished in a flash of silver and shadow. With eyes once Emily's now, I whispered words we'd never spoken aloud. An incantation against the elements, to call forth what came from beyond. The last thing I saw was the abyss opening wide before me, its maw filled with figures from that forgotten language, waiting for my return. Emily. They had changed her as they would change all who entered this world. Shadow people, ancient lore, and she spoke their tongue in a voice not her own, echoing our chant of farewell. We fled the passageway, yet I felt no pain. I heard their words merge into mine, an unspoken language of the wind. I was left to find my destiny under moonlight, and as I stumbled through the door, back to my room, the world had been rewritten in shadow and time. Now, I carried their lore with a voice that echoed secrets born before humanity. It whispered in me at dawn, a chorus of tongues. In rain, a language from another realm spoke. I heard them speak, and they were now silent, waiting for my return. I could not ignore the call forever.